So if you're a regular watcher or attendee of Central's Friday night Shabbat services, you are probably familiar with our community rituals. Even if you're just watching or attending for the very first time tonight, you are already familiar with our rituals. We have life cycle blessings over new babies or 2-year-olds and new couples. We sometimes sing and dance during the Hakafah when the Torah comes down into our midst. And for so many of us, the highlight of Friday evening, every Friday evening, is the Shehechianu, our blessing of gratitude for all of the joys, all of the simchas in our life. We love celebrating together. We are a community defined by joy. Now, according to tradition, there are 613 commandments or mitzvot in Torah. And this Shabbat's portion, Ki Teitzei, contains fully 74 of those 613 commandments. But I'll be honest, I am hard-pressed to find even one of those commandments in whose doing our joy is increased. Frankly, most of the mitzvot in this portion are abhorrent to a modern reader. There are laws requiring that wayward or rebellious children be killed. There are laws sanctioning the taking of women by force, multiple laws. There are laws demanding that atrocities committed against us remain top of mind forevermore. There are laws governing the isolation of imperfect bodies. There are laws demanding that those who go astray in matter after matter after a matter be put to death. Can you even imagine how hard it is to drash on this portion in a congregation that sings the positive messages of Judaism? No, really, it's hard. Because as a rule and as a community, we seek joy. But equally, as a community, we don't turn away from challenge. So let us face this challenge together. Ki Teitzei falls halfway through the month of Elul, the final month of the Jewish year. This is the month when we are asked to look honestly at ourselves, at our behavior, and at our relationships as we prepare for a new year. This is when we are called to do the difficult work of seeing and addressing the imperfections in ourselves. So I take that as an invitation to also acknowledge and address the imperfections in our tradition. And Parashat Ki Teitzei, our portion this week, is a perfect opportunity to bring these two challenges together. We can use these 74 commandments to acknowledge the imperfections of our traditions and the imperfections in ourselves. When Ki Teitzei tells us how to address misbehaving children, instead of glorifying the martial hand of the parent over the child, we could let it be a reminder to meet misbehavior with curiosity. We can use this mitzvah, this commandment, as a reminder to ask our children, or our partners, or our friends, why did you say that? Why did you act that way? What is going on that is causing you to be so unlike yourself? We can use this mitzvah to learn to cultivate empathy and listening instead of judgment and punishment. When Ki Teitzei tells us all the ways to take a woman as a wife without her consent, we could let that be a call to take stock of our own relationships. Are we happy? Are we being thoughtful? What more can we do that will make our loved ones feel supported? When Ki Teitzei tells us we must remember the betrayal and hatred flung at us by other nations, rather than using that mitzvah to guide us in righteous judgment against the other, we could let it be a reminder to try to understand what makes different nations unique. If your traditions do not look like mine, if your language sounds different from my own, is there something for me to learn from that? Instead of demonizing a people that once did us wrong, could we instead understand this mitzvah to be a call to reconciliation and understanding. When Ki Teitse tells us to separate imperfect bodies from our midst, lest they spread their ritual impurities, could we instead take that as an invitation to welcome every body into the spaces we inhabit? Can we open our eyes to the barriers that keep so many from being full participants in our cities and schools and offices and even our synagogues? Perhaps the mitzvah here should be using our voices and our bodies to make changes that make everyone feel welcome and a full part of this world. When Ki Teitse tells us to extend the harshest of punishment, even unto death, against those who go astray, could we instead consider our own behavior before judging that of others? Could we be merciful with those who trespass against us? Could we forgive ourselves and our own failings? Can we learn to see our mistakes and neither ignore them nor flagellate ourselves, but instead find ways to make different choices going forward? We can do these things. But what if we chose to go even a step further? What if we decided to learn from Parashat Ki Teitse not only how to face challenges and ugliness when they confront us, but what if we found in this portion inspiration to seek ways to step back from our own moments of joy in order to acknowledge and help heal the hurts around us? Many of you know that I am a die-hard Wisconsin Badgers fan, but tonight, I will take a break from my Big Red fandom and tell you a story about the Iowa Hawkeyes. This is a story that Rabbi Salth told me. For the last 5 seasons, the coaches, players, and 70,000 fans have taken a break at Hawkeye home football games at the end of the first quarter. They take a break from the jubilation of a football Saturday to wave. Who are they waving at? The children and families who are patients in the University of Iowa Children's Hospital, right next door to the football stadium. These are kids with blood defects, blood diseases, heart defects, cancer, other illnesses and injuries. And every Saturday morning when the Hawkeyes are at home, the entire stadium pauses from their football and their fun to stand up and wave at the kids and the families in the hospital next door. They interrupt their joy in order to acknowledge the struggles of these children. The reminder of sorrow and challenge, even in the midst of joy, is also baked into our Jewish tradition and not just our sacred Big Ten football traditions. If you've ever been to a Jewish wedding, you must remember the breaking of the glass. Hovering beneath the modern interpretations of releasing blessings into the world or gathering shards of light, there is the ancient and original meaning of this moment. The broken glass is meant to remind us, even in the most joyful moment, that sorrow and destruction remain in this world. Our temple is gone. And we must remember that, even as we celebrate the beginning of every new couple's life together. Our tradition insists the difficult moments are never far away. We will always seek joy together as a central community. But in addition to being the Shehechianu community, we are also the Misha Beirach community. We are also the Ki Teitse community. Perhaps that is meant to teach us that together we can face the harder moments in life and in our tradition. At first glance, to the modern reader, Ki Teitse, this week's portion, raises up the failures of our tradition. Failures to protect, to empathize, and to care. But as we approach a new year, I hope that we can look at these mitzvot in order to see more clearly our own failings and those of our tradition, so that we can enter 5783 with purpose, with honesty, and even with optimism. We are given an opportunity every year at this time to look at our lives differently and make a change. May Ki Tetzei inspire us not to shy away from the imperfections, but to see them, and in so doing, to see a way forward into the new year. Shabbat Shalom.